I was making jokes like I'm not perfectionist, but I think our ego is what makes us the perfectionist, and I think all of us hold ourselves to like an ideal, right? We have an ideal, which is a should. I should be here. I should be here by now. I should be great. This should happen, and this it should. And should is bullshit because it doesn't exist because it's the future, and the future doesn't exist yet. So there you are, not present.
Today we're going to be talking about the solo show. I want to introduce my panel of women. First off, we have Cynthia Levin, who is a former funny lady of color. She is an actress, she is a comedian, she is a solo performer, and she has had her hand at directing some amazing theater in Los Angeles and Chicago and London.
Wow.
And so she's our international girl. She's our international girl. Oh, yeah. And then we got Sandy Brown.
Hello.
Phenomenal. She is a comic, an actress. She's like a black Carol Burnett.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, she is. She is funny, like pee in your pants funny. Just like Cynthia, actually. The two of them have you peeing in your pants. So Sandy Brown has this incredible one-person show called Oh Yes, She Did, about black women in history, which is really, a tour de force. Ruthy Otero, my new friend. I love her so much. Also a collaborator with me, because I'm getting ready to put my show back up. And she has been amazing at giving some fabulous notes. Ruthy Otero is an actress, funny in her own right. I mean, like funny. And she has this incredible web series on YouTube called Cooking Up Adventure. I've known about Ruthy for a bunch of years, but how I connected with her was I was going into my Facebook one day, and Ruthy Otero was in Russia. Not only was she in Russia, but she had a little camera, and she was just recording everything running around. I was like, oh my God, a Puerto Rican in Russia. I have to know her. She's of my tribe. I need to know her. And that's how we connected a few years ago. And amazing, amazing, amazing. Then we have Mitzi Sinnott, who is coming to you from Skype all the way from Kentucky, and they're having incredible rains there, but she is hauling butt to be part of this a panel. And she was sick this week, so she just put everything she had to be part of this. And Mitzi has an incredible one-woman show called Snapshot about her growing up with her father. She's biracial, and she takes this into colleges all across the country. And she also teaches on race relations and diversity, and she's kick-ass. I'm just telling you, she's kick-ass. So, and I forgot to mention Cynthia's one-woman show.
So the last one,
Yes.
You gotta be shouldn't me. Conversations with my ego Carl.
Yes. You gotta be shouldn't me. You gotta be shouldn't me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
You know what she means, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, welcome, ladies, to Common Sense Mamita.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you.
Thrilled to be here.
I wanted to talk about the one-person show because it's a monster. Doing a one-person show is like riding a savage animal that you're not trying to tame, but you're trying to just go with the flow of it, because it's so massive when you start doing it that the title is deceiving, right? It says one-person show, but it's really about team effort. So I wanted to talk to you guys about, first of all, the first time you decided you were going to do a one-person show. What the hell were you thinking? That's what I want to know.
So for me, I was doing stand-up, had been doing it about 2.5 years at the time. So really, I had a lot of balls, didn't I? And what right did I have? So I basically just like scraped.
But that's who you are, Cynthia.
Yeah.
So
You're
fearless.
Yeah, and it was actually, and right before I was about to do it, and that show was called You're Not a Little Shit Anymore. I'm not a little shit anymore. SH ... Yeah. No, it'd be ... because that would be how you spell shit. But anyway, I'm not a little anymore. And basically, and the idea of the show was basically, it was like the first time where I thought, like, where I did have the balls to do something. So that was me, because I used to be called a little shit by my dad. Because I always pictured little pieces of poo, and I thought, oh, that's me. That's who I am. Anyway, so that was a big deal that I did this show. Anyway, and it ended up being a sold-out show. It was me doing, like, all my stories and characters and all this kind of stuff, and it was, like, amazing. And I was super duper sick right before I was about to do the show. Like, basically had a breakdown, just like, who the fuck do you think you are type of breakdown. Like, how dare you? I was like, a mess. And then I couldn't even talk or anything, and then I had no voice.
So you had a nervous breakdown.
Basically. And so, and then I don't know if maybe. Who knows? I get so used to feeling sickening that I just thought that was sort of normal. It was just a little extra. And so then, I lost my voice, and then I went and did the show, and I just started talking. I was like, oh, it was as if I was never ill. There's no problem, because, it's like, it's your ego. I always talk about the ego. And it was, your ego attacks when you're doing something that's challenging. So my ego attacked me. I didn't know it at the time. I just thought, I'm just scared. But anyway, I did it and it was great. And so that was me. That was my first one-person show. And ended up doing them like about 9 or 10 more after that. Because for me, it was every time I had an epiphany or I needed to take my life in my own hands, I needed to tell the story. I needed to share it. That's how I operate. So that's why I started doing them.
But as a comic, you also have a platform to do that. So why did you choose the one-person show platform as opposed to saying, okay, I'm just going to tell jokes about my epiphany?
Because I think stand-up, there's a certain thing to stand-up. You have to sort of please the audience to a certain degree. And because I had such a sickening life and I had to keep, like, recovering from it. And by doing it, like, I would have an epiphany around what I just went through. Then I would write a whole show through that. And so then it was almost like, so then I needed all that time. And I really couldn't do it in little pieces on stage. Some things you could, but for the most part, I had to tell this particular story, and it was shown through all these 20 different little stories, something like that.
Mitzi, you're an actress and a dancer, and what got you to do a one-person show?
For me, it was a little bit of everything. Similarly, my show was born in 2004. Around I was living in New York City, and I had just found my father in Honolulu. George Bush and Congress were considering invading Iraq, and people in New York were protesting about no war. And I felt like at that moment when I had discovered my father, a Vietnam vet, how his life had been destroyed, and how my own personal life was really coming to a head with things from my past, I had no choice but to tell the story. Because when I was like, look, I didn't create the conflict in Vietnam. I did not create racism, the reasons why my family are all torn apart. I felt like if I didn't tell the story, I was going to implode. And I very naive, thinking, if I tell the story, maybe people will think twice before going to war. So I had those feelings all at the same time, and within 2 months, I took this Cheryl King's solo writing workshop. And what was great about the workshop was I had already started writing the piece. It was coming out, like I was dying. Like if I didn't write this shit and get it out, I was gonna die or explode one. And so every week we would put something up in front of audiences, pieces of it, which was great. So I got that cathartic experience, but I also got to see in that moment what was gonna work in a scene and what would not. And within a few months, it didn't take long for this piece because, again, it was like a long time coming, and it was up within 3 months.
Guess what? I've got this fabulous little bundle just for you because you are a fabulous actor. I got it for you. So what do I got for you? Let me tell you what I got for you. I got the PR cheat sheet, which every actor needs. You need to know how to do your own PR until you get that job where you can pay for a PR person. Then I have the 12-step audition. That's another cheat sheet. Sometimes you get freaked out at auditions and you don't know what to do. Well, my 12-step audition cheat sheet will help you and guarantee that you will slam your audition every time. And the third thing I got for you is the casting sites. I have a list of casting sites so you can go and just submit yourself for that next big part. How does that sound? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And Sandy,
Yes.
you are incredible at doing characters. What got you to do Oh Yes She Did?
I've been doing stand-up for a while. I had thought of doing a solo show, but it seemed so daunting. And then the decision of what to do with that. I remember seeing yours, and I was so inspired by yours and the characters, even the table read. They were just floating, and they were alive, and it was amazing. And then I took a course. I took a workshop with Adela Barnes.
And Adela Barnes
is the president of the Los Angeles Women's Theater Festival.
And the founder.
The founder and a phenomenal performer in her own right. And also Roger Gwynver Smith. And he is an amazing solo artist that you see his shows on HBO, etc. I was moved by Roger's because his was historical and particularly.
Was that Juan?
Yeah, the Huey P. Newton story. Is that what you saw?
And what I was riveted by the fact that he did that whole show sitting down, and he only got up once, and that was all inside the chair to sit up, and then he sat back down. But he held the audience, he grabbed them by the neck and didn't let go, and it was wonderful to see him do that and bring it to life. And his class was specifically for solo artists, historical solo artists. So I go to the class, and I'm ready. I'm revved up with my characters and stuff like that. And everyone else there who had signed up for the workshop brought in their personal solo show. And so he had to switch gears of what it was about and go in that direction. I was like, I came prepared. He's like, well, what do you have? And I just started doing Shirley Chisholm and a couple of other people. And so, I got a little help there. But I was so determined because it's a different route than if it was a personal one. And I was asked to do a performance for a campus. And I needed to pull that show together, and I did the research, and so as I got started with the show, I did it once as a kind of a pop-up for Black History Month, and it's Oh Yes She Did. It chronicles 400 years of American history through the prism of legendary Black women who changed the course of American social history, and it captures each of the women
from Phyllis Wheatley,
Harriet Tubman, to Shirley Chisholm, to Angela Davis, to Rosa Parks. There's 14 women, and so. But I realized when I did it for the quick one, it was extremely satisfying. But I realized I really had to go deeper to honor what that was. So because each of the women, you can do a scene, but if you don't understand the context of the times in which they lived and what happened before and what's happening, you can't fully show the impact. And so I had to go deep into research, and I went deep underground. I didn't do any TV, I didn't do stand-up, usually I go overseas every year. I just went woodshed and researched and researched and researched. And because there's a difference in researching costumes and dialect and things like that, because there's a difference. You carry yourself differently if you're wearing a corset versus a dashiki. You know what I'm saying? And that informs how you speak and how you move. So it was very important to me. But as I was researching, I was like, this is so heavy. Who would want to see that? I would just keep typing and just get myself up. And then I had to go through that journey to find the funny that helped them make it through each of that, because each of them are on each other's shoulders. And so going through that it affected me deeply. But when you find the funny, then that's the magic there. So that's how I started, and I actually worked backwards with my show with that. I saw each of the women, and I got the period clothes, and whether I made them or found them, etc., and put them together and did the photo shoots for each of the women. It's the icon, the branding of it is Josephine Baker in the middle with her banana skirt, and then all of the other women all the way around, in a circle, or underneath actually. And oh yes, she did from slave ship to spaceship, because it's a journey. So it's beyond just doing individual Black women. There's a through line of the change in America, the social changes in America that made it possible for this, and how each of them were pivotal somehow in that. I say all that to say, I did the photographs of each, capturing them first, and I looked at it, and I studied, and it came to me on the story with each of them to fit them into a solo show. So that's my first thing, because my first idea was to do it based on aspects of my stand-up. That's what I originally wanted, and that one is actually written before this one, but I knew
Apocalypse one.
that's my Apocalypse one. I have it's called it's the Apocalypse Be Fabulous, and but I know that one is so grand that I would need to prove myself with one to get the backing and to be able to expand and show this one the way it needs to be done. So that's how I got started, and in the solo show experience, and it's been so rewarding. I just want to tag on before we move on, what you were saying, how it's different. For me, the difference, because I do characters, you get asked that a lot. Why not do a solo show? What's great about that versus stand-up comedy is that you can take a concept and bring it to the stage and flesh it out, and you don't have the laughs per minute demand that you have when you have to wrangle and keep an audience on its seats, because an audience that's there to see a solo show is there for the details. They want want you to take them on the journey. They don't need the punch, even though it'll end up, you can still work things and still be funny and still have that same reaction at the end, where that's the catharsis of laughing so hard, it just in a different mode. You know, you get to work other gears, and stand up comes into play nicely with that. You know, so been looking forward to for that, and I love the fact that that she shared that per epiphany, boom, and bring it to the stage. I'm bringing it to. I love that. I love the immediacy of that, and that's beautiful.
Thanks, Sandy.
Ruthy, what got you going into solo shows?
What got me going into solo shows? I don't know at what point, because when I started acting in high school, I would do improvs, and I just happened to be good at them, like performing alone. Storytelling. And then I was in a sketch comedy troupe, South Soul Comedy Troupe in New York. We performed at Caroline's, and that it was a regular thing. But I wanted to say something, and sketch comedy wasn't about saying something per se. So then I would see solo performers, and then I don't know why, I just felt like I was meant to do a solo show, that I could and I will, but I was terrified, because being in New York, I'd see really amazing people and I'd see really bad people. So it was just like, oh my God, I'm not as good as them, but I could be as bad as that? Oh my God, this is dangerous territory. So unlike what you said, I think it takes balls of steel to do stand-up comedy. And I took a class, because I did sketch, so it was just easy being in that sort of environment. But it, like you also shared, it didn't feel like a vehicle where I had the pressure of 4 jokes a minute at least, and then an environment where they could be like talking to each other and talking about how cute the waitress is and being drunk and talking back. No, thank you. Didn't want that. So that's why the solo show felt like it was something that I was meant to do, and I wanted to have the permission to say something, because I felt I'd seen a lot of really great comedians too who could say something, but knowing the music and science of comedy, I was like, it'll be 5 years before I could have even a 20-minute or an hour show. So it was mostly about, I could make you laugh, I could make you cry, I could not be funny, and you're not gonna ask for your money back. So that's why solo shows for me.
And so you've done 4?
4.
Wow. You've done 4 so far. So we have 9, 4, 1, 1, 1. Okay, just trying to keep tabs here. So, Mitzi, what have you discovered in doing the solo show? Because not only have you been doing it consistently for a long period of time, you actually use it as a teaching tool.
Yeah. So what have I discovered in
Yes.
overall?
Yes.
Wow. I would say I had no idea when it was born in 2004 in Brooklyn at BAM, or Brick Harvey, sorry, right across the street from BAM. I had no idea that it would turn into something, I've taken breaks from it, long breaks from it, but I didn't think it would last this long, and that it would become a keynote performance, and that it would run on PBS. I didn't think that this personal, what I thought was very personal, would resonate to so many people around the world and in the United States. So I discovered that it was much, much bigger than myself, and that it would have a life longer than I ever imagined, because after the show was born, then everybody was like, oh my God, you need to do this more, then you need to take this to festivals. So I had my friends come and sit at School of the Future with me, where I was director, and I said, what can we vision about this piece? Where should I go? And I wanted it to be an off-Broadway show. But I discovered there was a whole nother world for me to journey with this piece. I had no idea. Yeah.
And you took it to Edinburgh.
Yes. Crazy. Yeah. People warned me not to, and I felt like it definitely broke my pocket, and it broke my back, it broke my spirit. I had 5-star reviews. I was nominated for Best Actress by the stage. 1,500 shows the year I was there, and 5 women in the world were picked. But it was such a journey that accolade really didn't feel like much at the time.
Yeah.
And Cynthia, you did Edinburgh.
Right. I've done it 3 years, but 2 years where I brought my own show, and one of them was it's very arduous. I mean, and when people, I'd already been doing stand up about 25 years when I went there, I guess, to do those, so you know what I mean? So, and other people, I think they're newer comedians or newer performers, are like, this is great, this is fun. I mean, for the most part.
Yeah.
And so they're excited, and I'm like, I'm tired. I'm gonna go lay down. This is sickening. Like, just let me, let's not do this. Do you know what I mean? But, and because, it is relentless. It's relentless. But I forced myself into some kind of energy of like, I'm in it, and so I did one show that was, called Nobody Gets Away Unscathed, where I played a character named Lydia Nicole, and she basically, she's a lounge act. She's a terrible lounge act, but she blames the piano player and anybody in the audience. But it's really fun. And so I did that 1 year, and so that was fun. But I didn't get an award, miss. Anyway, and then listen, I think they weren't even sure I was there. And then I did another year where I did, which is based on my screenplay, which is now my TV series that I'm working on, called Unprepared for Life, which is of course my life story. And that's what I did there, and I did that solo show there, and that was really deep. And it was like I did it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which is a great time to go see something depressing story about this young American bitch's life. Because like, who the hell, people are like, oh dear, and
oh God,
daddy,
right.
Let's just stay outside for a while, but so anyway, but I'm with you in terms of but I'm glad I did it, but I don't, when people say they really want to do it, I go, just relax.
But I feel like what happens at Edinburgh stays at Edinburgh, and people just let this sort of legacy and the effervescence, the allure of it live, and they don't tell the truth about how effing hard it is.
That's right.
And the hustle. But if you go and you're just wild and crazy, you're like, and you don't put a lot of investment in it, it could be fun for a young person to be like, oh my God.
Yeah, if you're doing, if you're doing other people's shows, or you're doing like a bill with like 7 people on it, but if you're doing your own thing, you have to promote yourself all day long. That's that's what you're doing, in your outfit, if you're, like me. I was like, God, I should have bought another outfit, after a while, but yeah, I did it 3 years. I did in 08, I did it with some friends. I did like 3 shows a day, and it was a blast because I had nothing at stake. I wouldn't say it was a blast. It might be silly, but I mean, I knew I was going to Ireland shortly, so that's what made it a blast for me. I was like, okay, this is gonna be over in a minute, and then because you do 3 weeks, and then then when I moved there, so I was living in London for 4 years, and so from I think in 2014 and 2015 I did the shows there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the solo shows. Yeah.
For actors out there watching who are contemplating they're going to do the greatest solo show ever, what advice do you have for them? Mitzi, we'll start with you.
Okay. Oh, wow. Advice. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity no matter what, whether it's the greatest solo show or the first solo show you've ever done. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think you need some support friends to help you get through things like the producing of it. And I really valued taking scenes and then putting them up in a cafe like we did in that writing class. That was the most helpful thing to me. So hearing other people what works, observing it as I had never done it. So it was good to get that audience feedback before I put the whole piece together. And oh my God, I've seen so many different kinds of one-person shows. So I just want to say, listen to yourself, get some support, and you need a producing crew, whether it's your best friends or whatever, but somebody to help you stay on task and organized and produce and promote and all that. God, it's a big thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ruthy.
I would say stop thinking that you're going to do the greatest solo show ever, because that will stop you in your tracks. Just lower the bar on that and be willing, because one of the things that loosened me up, one was seeing John Leguizamo do Freak on Broadway and seeing, it was a very Latino-centric show, and seeing the rainbow of cultures, laughing, Jewish people, Black people, Latino people, in taking in his story. And that made me go, okay, there's an audience for my story too. That was one. But also seeing this other show, that was bad. It was bad. She had this moment that just didn't make sense. Whatever, I'm not going to get into it. But I was just like, that sucked. But when she came out, I was like, good for you! Because she did her shitty show. I was still trying to make this amazing show and sitting at home going, oh God, it could suck. What am I going to do? So lower the bar for that reason. That just loosened me up. It's like, you know what? I just got to do the show. I don't even care if it's good or bad. Just want to do it, because I was 5 years. I was like, because of perfectionism, I guess.
Wow. It took you 5 years to put it together.
No, just to have the guts to do it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Exactly. So it was brewing, like Mitzi said. I was like, what is it going to be? And then I did it within 3 months. And then I did a second show 6 months later.
Right.
But it was the got to do the best show ever that I was in prison for. So that would be the first thing to do. And then the other thing that loosened me up was being of service with my show. Because the other thing, the solo show, man, I'm a bust out, and I'm a career in movies and TV. Woo! Money! And that, was like, no. It was going to open up the gates to like a new universe. So who could handle that? So, too much pressure. So with that, I couldn't write because it had to meet that bar, and it was all about me. So then I was like, okay, if I were going to get shot and killed at the end of the show, what would I, like, where there was no money, nothing at stake at the end of it, what would I want the impact to be? Would I want to get an agent or all those things, or would I want someone to say, oh my God, that show changed my life? And so when I made it about helping that person who needed to hear my story, then I could write. And that has been the sort of where I start off with any show that I'm going to write. It's like, okay, who needs to hear this? Because I think about them, then it's like, yes, I must tell my story. When it's about me, I can't write. I just can't. So yeah, make it of service and do a crappy show, because it won't be crappy, because as long as you're honest.
Yeah.
Sandy Brown.
I say, release the pressure of it being the greatest thing ever, and just follow the vision of what you want to say, because it'll serve you in so many different ways. And as an artist pursuing a solo show, there's something, and we've studied with Larry Moss, and Larry Moss's thing is, if you aren't acting, you can't call yourself an actor. So if you're not booked, you need to be in class, or you need to be putting up a show. And when you're putting up a show, you're doing all aspects of it, and times have changed now. So you are responsible for creating an entire show yourself, but you're learning all these different aspects of production in the process of that. So that it elevates you as an artist tremendously and quickly, because you're forced to I was able to run my show, the Volume 1, 5 years, just ongoing in multiple cities, and it afforded me the opportunity to perform parts that I may have not necessarily been cast for, but I got to express myself in that one, and I felt creatively full. For so many times as an actor, you are sitting and waiting. When are they going to pick me? And when you're in a solo show, you are in production all the time. You're looking for things that are inspiring you. You're looking for how you're putting it together, music or visuals and things like that. Or as Cynthia was saying, instantly the next one. I'm on the next one. Boom, on this one. And so it keeps you creatively alive, and it makes you ready for when the industry has, an opportunity for you. You've already been primed and ready. You're not I'll pull it together. You walk differently. You carry yourself differently when you have a project that you've put up. It puts you in another category than those who are just sitting and waiting for somebody to write and create something for them. You learn the mindset of a writer and producer and director and all of that. And so I'd say I would make it required for an artist to come up with something to be able to present forth, because it will have you also looking at the industry in a different way too, and seeing a better way to handle stuff and how to handle your career as a result.
Cynthia.
Yeah.
My 9 girl.
Yeah, or 11 probably, or 13. I'm not sure, but there was the bigger ones. There's 9 of bigger ones, but never. My problem was I didn't have a perfectionist concern, so don't worry about that. I was just like, oh, I got to get this out. It was like I had a baby. I got to get this baby out of here. But because because I would spend most of my days crying. You know what I mean? I'd be like, oh my God, what time is it? I gotta go perform. Oh, what should I wear? And that was like, and really, so performing saved my life, and of course, stand-up saved my life. And then when I wrote these shows, it was because I was going through something very, so much I couldn't handle it. And then when I had, that's what I call an epiphany, when I go, oh, okay, this is what that was. I was on the other side of it. The show came out. I had to get it up. That's why I said I wasn't a perfectionist in it, meaning it was a story to tell. And in terms of my advice for other people, I think that it's just like Sandy was saying, I think everybody has a story to tell. Everybody in the world has a story to tell. But if you're a performer, if you're an actor, I think it's critical that, yes, you take your career in your own hands, and that you if you're an actor, you're a storyteller, whether you've written it down or not. And so it's time to let your story be the story, and tell your story. And then in that storytelling, you find your humor, you find your depth, you find your pain. You have to dig deeper in solo shows, and that's why I love them, because there is pathos, and there's loads of humor, and there's wisdom. And so and no, it's and again, just like you were saying, it's not about being going out there. I'm gonna become a star. Oh my God, when they see me do these 7 characters, they're gonna I'm gonna blow their mind. It's what's gonna happen. And the reality is that, you're an artist first. And then, what's brilliant about probably what all you gals did is that you worked on something many times over, and you perfected it. And then you put yourself out there in terms of getting industry there, in terms of just in terms of getting it out there as commercially. And that is another hat to put on. And that is fantastic. And I wouldn't say I've worn that hat. And if I have, it blew off. As soon as it was a windy day, I haven't seen it since. But all my shows are very personal. And so because they're so personal, and also I think I was protecting the parents and the family, and just you don't want to out, your story. And so because I was doing that, I think that I unconsciously was keeping my shows sort of at a certain level. I wasn't putting them out there fully. It was it was for me, and I needed to do this, and I got as many people there as possible, and some of them I repeated several times in different cities. but not loads of times, and not, it wasn't like something I was like, all right, let's go, let's take this baby around. It was like, okay, now I'm on to the next problem. Do you know what I mean? And that's sort of how I've operated. But I do think it, as I say, I just think that it's a wonderful thing to do, and absolutely get an eye on it. And I think, of course, that's probably more helpful. But, and just, you have to deal with your, pay attention to how you're feeling about yourself. Like if you have a lot of insecurity or fear around the thing that you really want to do, pay attention to your unconscious beliefs about yourself. What it is that you believe about yourself. Who do you think really belongs doing this? Is it you or is it somebody else? What are those people like? Are they the rich ones, the talent, the pretty ones? Who are those people? Because you've got to get down to what your fears are, your unconscious fears are. And then when you do that, you get confidence and you become fearless in a real way, and you can come from underground and bring your stuff overground and share it.
And I think, piggybacking on that, when you're doing a biographical solo show,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think when you're doing any kind of solo show,
Yeah.
fear and certain things
It's
are going to come up.
Absolutely.
But when you are doing a biographical show, you talk about being under attack, like your body goes into all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, I would say the first few years that I was doing my show, my body, I couldn't talk. I couldn't get out of the bed. I mean, there were all these things that were coming against my body because I was getting ready to divulge secrets.
That's right.
And to go, I had the courage to say it, but my body was like, I don't think you should do that. I don't think so.
That's right.
You want to die now? Because we can kill you right now before your family kills you.
That's right. That's
right. And I had worked on it a long time, doing it at the Comedy Store and then taking it to colleges around the country and then doing pieces of it and doing the show in youth authorities. When I took it to New York to actually stand it in a theater and do it 8 times a week and had to have my family come and had to have real close friends come, what happened? Well, what happened was...
Yeah.
What happened, girl? What happened was, first of all, the first 2.5 weeks, I would do theater for 2. Only 2 people would show up.
Right.
And so I had a breakdown one night behind the curtain as we were getting ready to do the show. And I looked out and there was 2 people. And those 2 people were ready to leave. And I was like, I had a flashback of when I was a kid and my sister threw me my first birthday party. I was 11 and nobody showed up. And we had all this food, and I felt like that. I felt like that little 11-year-old kid. I was like, nobody's here, and I worked so hard. And the thing that shifted me was the Comedy Store, because I said, wait a minute. I've been trained at the Comedy Store to be able to do stuff in front of one person. This is a piece of cake. I got 2 people in the audience.
This is a piece of cake.
And I shifted at that moment, and then things started shifting, and after that, my body started to just go with what I was doing. I didn't get sick anymore. I did it, and family members came, and I had hell to pay because I had those family members that were like, how dare you talk about your mother like that? How dare you talk about us like that? Who do you think you are? I said, it's the truth. It's the truth.
That's right.
Now, if you can
funny.
tell me it's not the truth, I won't do it again.
That's
and they
right.
walked away with their tail between their legs.
That's
and
right.
then that was it, because I start my show with the story you're about to hear is the truth, and nobody's name has been changed to protect. I haven't changed anybody's name to protect anybody.
Yeah, that's great.
They're all going down.
That's right.
And so it's not only an acting exercise when you start telling your story, when you start telling truth. It really is about you empowering yourself as an artist in a different way. That means you take a stand and you say, this is who I am and this is what I do. And I love John Leguizamo in that way because he had the courage not only to speak truth, but to say, I'm taking Broadway.
Yeah.
I'm
Super
taking
cool.
Broadway.
He was the first
and,
person to do it.
And to be able, well, actually,
To do it that way.
yes, to do it that way.
To telling personal
Yes,
stories.
because-
Whoopi just did character.
Well, no,
You're
because
right.
Bronx Tale.
That's right.
He did it first.
Yeah.
He did it first out here.
Well, did he? He did.
Yeah, he
You're
did
right.
it first
Yeah.
out here.
Broadway? That was on Bronx Tale. Wasn't on Broadway though.
Before
No.
Spalding Gray?
But he did
No,
it out here
Spalding Gray
first.
wasn't on Broadway.
What's
either.
his name?
Yes,
Oh.
Spalding Gray did stuff first, but
But downtown.
Chaz Palminteri
Chaz.
was the first one to really say, "I'm going to tell you
the
my story,
That's right.
the good, the bad, the ugly.
That's right.
You know, I'm
That's
going
right.
to talk about these wise guys who could kill me.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
and he did it out here. That thing of having the courage to tell your story, getting past that as an artist, and then becoming a real writer, because as you're writing, you're rewriting and rewriting and rewriting, and then you take on producer. You know, one of the things you touched on, and I want to talk about that, was you were doing your show part of the week in LA, and then you would take the train up to San Francisco and do the show.
Every week.
And you,
Amazing.
my friend, was the one woman band because you know you took it on yourself to do everything. You did. You acted. You wrote. You were your marketing person. You were your publicist. You were the director, and you were the stage manager and the tour person.
Costumer, wig.
That's right. Costumer, a set designer. You really
Amazing.
Edited the movies and everything. Yeah.
Oh my
you
God.
really almost killed yourself.
But it was so awesome to be able to fully express your vision because you're doing it that
That's
way
right.
how you want
That's
to.
right.
It took forever to lift it up, but once it was up there, it's like, there it goes. That's
Amazing.
my baby.
It's
You know?
amazing.
So and really it was. That's why it was so artistically fulfilled. I was just creatively fulfilled every week. It was a grueling. It was a grind, but there's nothing like that.
You did a few runs where you did in LA and you were simultaneously on the
Wow.
week or some part of the week you would do LA and then some part of the week you did San Francisco.
Yeah, my I didn't have a lot of budget, so I had to be very on point with that. And my show, I'm blessed because huge word of mouth, so that kept it going. And I was ranked Gold Star, Aurora of the Week crowd every week. You know, so I had those going on, and then once I won the NAACP award for best solo show,
Wow.
then that, you know, that helped as well. So,
But
it's people come to see the show, and then they bring their friends and coworkers, and schools are like, I want the whole school to, you know. So, and people keep coming back, and they come back multiple times. So there's I wouldn't have been able to afford the type of reach, advertising wise. Better. There's nothing better than the word of mouth, because people sell them and they will. You know, we are going tonight to this, and we're gonna have. You know, it becomes an event when you've influenced the audience to want to, you know, make an event for their friends and family.
what you did though that was brilliant was cultivating a relationship with Gold Star.
Yeah.
That you were on top of that which allowed you to have a certain type of marketing that not many solo performers think of. To say, I don't have money to market, but what can I do with what I have? And somehow you zeroed in on Gold Star, and you not only made them your friend, but you were able to utilize that in San Francisco.
Yeah, on both fronts, and it was amazing because they would put you up as roar of the crowd as having the most amazing, the highest ticket sales, along with on the same page with Fela and Cirque du Soleil, and I'm like, oh my God,
That's
for the
incredible.
ongoing
That's
show,
incredible.
so there's so many ways to partner up, and you'll learn that when you start to run your show for longer than say a weekend or things like that.
How did you develop a relationship with them?
She slept with all of them.
God!
I heard on every coast.
I heard.
Incredible. You talk about busy and a lot of hats.
Who does that? There would be ongoing groups that would come to see the show. So those were groups of tickets that were lucrative for an agency like Gold Star to tie in, but also different theaters and things like that. You can partner up with and say set up a door deal, or whether you go and rent out a theater. There's so many different ways depending on how long you want to run something and what your goal is. Whether you have a residency or whether I'm just doing a short run because I want to tape it, or you're doing it for festival consideration. There's a lot of different ways to approach.
So, for you producing, you also produced your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was your experience in? Now you're the solo performer, and you also have to produce your show.
Well, I was blessed in that the first show, part of what got me to do it was that I was doing pieces of it downtown, and the woman who was producing
New York.
in New York, yes, and in Lower East Side, and the woman who's producing those events approached me and said, I'd like to produce your one-person show. I was
Nice.
like, gulp, and she gave me a deadline, October. And that was May. I was like, done. So I didn't have to produce the very first one. But then to continue the run, I co-produced with her, and then that's where I learned, how the machine works. And then I produced, I'm not sure, no, then I produced my second show on my own. So that's how I had learned, just what it takes and how it can be done. And doing it on my own was just a matter of, well, the money. I got the money because, like you had said, you're working, you're doing your thing, and I'm a commercial actress, so I booked commercials. I just started booking, and it's like the money comes. Well, two things. I believe money comes from the commitment when you decide to do it, whether the money, the people, whatever, appear, or, like I said, I produced it. Commercials, produced my show. So the money is the first hurdle, and then after that, it's just keeping organized, and having a notebook for all different things, and then asking friends for the evenings of, but it's like a wedding, and I'd been married, I'd produced a wedding before, so doing a one-person show was very similar.
And Mitzi, how about you in your producing experience of your show?
Because of some of the social justice themes of the piece, I got support from the Brooklyn Arts Council, and I sort of went that route looking for grants to produce it, and it has, it still has an attractive element of those elements that bring funders around. But also, what's interesting when you guys were saying about in the producing, what was a surprise. Initially, the show always sold out in New York, and then when I did smaller festivals, it was full every time. It wasn't until I went to Edinburgh that I started losing money and feeling that executive producer pinch. That was hard then. But up until that point, it had been pretty easy because of the thing, and still because of the social justice themes. But we did some fundraisers, some friends, we sent out fundraising letters after it started getting reviews. And so money would always come to it that way. And so, learning how to write press releases, doing all that kind of stuff, and it's a great thing to learn. Much internationally producing, that was a big thing. Waking up every morning, at 4 a.m. to make sure I was calling, I actually went to London to interview publicists for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival because I knew if I was going, I did not want to fall through the cracks. So I ended up getting one of the top publicists for that. I'm one who likes to get support. I do a lot of the work, but I also know that I don't know enough people, and I like to branch out and get that kind of support and raise the money to do that. So that was a great help for me to do that. And when I was in Edinburgh, navigating, getting interviews for some of the big newspapers and things like that. That was great to have that support.
Mitzi, I think what you did was amazing. I would have never thought to get a publicist in London to take to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
That's
I didn't want to get lost in the cracks. I mean, there was too many shows, and if I was going, I mean, I redid the show. I gave it my all, and I was like, I want to make sure that I'm seen. I picked one of the top venues. And so that was also a recommendation that they gave, that work with a publicist additionally to help get the word out, because I'm one person and my crew, we can't hit the streets and get people in like you need to.
What venue did you do in Edinburgh?
I did C venue. I don't know if you're familiar with them or
I know it. It's a theater. It's a really nice space. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's huge.
So you being in Edinburgh.
Yeah, so I was saying that I did the free fringe, which is, it's free, and you still have to pay for yourself to live there, to be there, to eat, and all this kind of stuff, and you make money in tips. So you go around and you pass around a hat. I made like 10 pence one night. It was really great. That was my biggest night. No, I'm just kidding. You usually make around 50 pounds or something like that after a show or something in there, and so you get money to eat with and to live on and that kind of stuff. But what she had to pay for her venue, where the free fringe you don't pay for your venue. So it's 10,000. I don't even know it, but even like huge acts go under. It's like known for you go under. It doesn't matter who you are, you're going to go under, and it's terrible. So that's the thing. They're charging too much for these big venues, and so you're ending up that's the thing. So that's why she had to get what would you get? A publicist, yeah. And it's really wise, and everybody does PR, and everybody gets articles written and stuff like that about them, and that's helpful. And it's helpful, but it's critical, especially if you're going on your own and you're going to use a big venue like that and spend all that money. And I don't know, very few people have ever made their money back in that situation. But
I saw an article that when I was there, when I was realizing how much money I was bleeding out daily,
that's right.
And I saw an article that Eddie Murphy had been there, and he was like, "Yo, man, I'm in a dungeon in Edinburgh." He's like, "I could have done better in Harlem, man.
That's right.
In the basement in Harlem."
That's brilliant.
Shit.
That's exactly right. What year was that?
Screaming and going, "That's how I feel."
That's really it. That's why I don't go. Yeah, we got to go. Because there's 4,000 shows going in a day or something like that. It's like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, my experience in producing, I had no money. I didn't know where I was going to get money from. I went to my go-to, which was a comedy store, and asked if I could use the belly room to workshop my show. And so the way I got it was Mitzi said, Mitzi Shore. Not Mitzi said it, but Mitzi Shore said, in order for me to have the room to do my show, I had to do Latino night. I had to host it. So that's how I got to do my show. I would do my show from 7 to 8:30, and then 9 o'clock I would start Latino night, and I had to have I made the list. I had to have the comics. I had to keep it going. I had to have the room have some people in it. So I was doing double duty in order to make it, and it wasn't until maybe a year later that I realized that I was doing myself a disservice, not doing the show, but only putting the show up once a week. That when you're doing a solo show, you put so much effort into putting it up that it really, you do a disservice when you just put it up once, and you put it up for a couple of nights, and then you don't do it for months, and then you put it up again. And so after doing it a year, I realized, wait a minute, I need to take this somewhere. I need to have it. So I contacted a bunch of little theaters in New York and said, hey, I'm from New York. I have this great show. I want to come and do my show. Would you let me come in? And we split the door. And I must have called about 80 theaters within a week. And the last theater I called was this guy, and he must have heard desperation in my voice. And he said, well, why don't we do this? How about you come and do your show for a couple of days and let's see what happens. So I said, I'll do you one better. I'll come
I'll pay
and
you.
do the show for a week and you can have the full door. And then if you like it, we'll do it. So I went and I did, and that was at the beginning, which I was getting sick. And so I was sick as a dog. But I got up every night and did that show, and you would have never known that I was sick until I got off stage, because I was so committed to getting this. I was like, I want this theater, and I'm not going to let my sickness block me from this theater. And so that was in March, and then we talked for a couple of months, and he said, okay, I'm going to give you, I said, I want a summer run because I know that's when, it's down. And so I did a run from July to the end of August.
Wow.
We left 2 days before 9/11.
Oh.
And the theater was down maybe, I don't know, a mile from
I came to it. I
that's
came
right.
to your show.
And
Yeah,
so-
it was over there.
And so I learned a lot because I thought that, we're doing the show together and they're going to at least send a mailer, send an email. Hey, we got this show. I realized in those 2 weeks that they hadn't done anything. So I had to bust my butt. I took the phone book and I started calling organizations, say, hi,
Good for you.
I'm doing a show. I'd like to offer you a 2-for-1. Come, bring your people. And then towards the end, those phone calls started paying off. That I was able to get a sorority to come.
Great.
I was able, and then one night when we were finally having an audience, the person who was doing the light and sound did not show up. And Alexia, who was 11 or 10
Oh my God.
had to go up in the booth
Grab the
and
reins.
run sound and lights.
Wow. That's a good girl.
Wow, Lexi.
And then the next day, where we were staying, the brother of the woman who were this was pre Airbnb, her brother did the sound and lights the rest of the run.
Great.
But it was all bartering. It was all like
That's right.
finagling.
Yeah.
What could I get with no money? Because I
Yeah.
had no money. I
Yeah.
had saved up like you with your with your commercial money. I was a guest artist in the youth prisons. So I was doing extra classes, so that I knew I was going to have a certain amount of money to live off of, be able to pay the rent where we were staying and be able to take care of the little things, but I didn't have extra. One of the things that I think is important when you're doing a one-person show is to understand that there are going to be incredible challenges. That
Yes.
sometimes it's not about money, it's about your resourcefulness.
Right.
It's about figuring out, how can I put this up? Who do I know who has somebody or knows somebody who has access to a theater? Or let me get a room and just invite a lot of people to come and sit and let me just do the, do the workshop, do the stuff. Both of you talked about doing pieces in coffee houses and things like that. When I knew I wanted to do this show, I started writing it in Mark Travis's class. Mark
Right.
Travis was the guy who was behind A Bronx Tale. He was the one who who helped Chaz Palminteri write his stuff, and then because of that success, he started a class. So I sat in his class for a year, writing and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting, and every week we would write, and the class was the audience, and then we had a night where we did a table read and had people come and visit. But what I learned from that was you have to have the passion. It's like you get the show idea, you put your show in some order, then you have to, no matter what, put it somewhere. For me it was the Comedy Store and the Youth Authority. Those kids had to listen to my stuff because I was like, I need an audience, and it's you. And so I would go every week. I said, okay, Here's another piece of the show. Let's go. And then when I had a show, then I actually booked space so that all the kids could come and see what I did.
Nice.
But it's really about resourcefulness.
Yeah.
That's why when you were going through the process of getting your show, what really impressed me was how you connected with Gold Star, because that was that was huge. That I think that saved you a lot of times. That was your saving grace, because you were doing everything. You couldn't really. I'm gonna tell on Sandy Brown. Sandy Brown would do her show, then get in a car after it was over and go paper. Leave her flyers in parking lots, and she was relentless in getting stuff going and working it out. And I think when you do a one-person show, what I loved hearing from you, Mitzi, was that you said you took a team with you to Edinburgh.
Edinburgh. I'm just correcting it for the world, just so they all know that we know. It's Edinburgh.
Edinburgh. And how, most artists don't know that they need a team. I didn't know I needed a team until, because at the comedy store, I had comics putting the sound on for me.
Yeah.
But I think there's also so yes, it sounds nice, but then there's a whole nother level of you have a team, and now you have to learn how to manage a team.
Yeah.
You have to pick the right kind of team, and making sure so it's not at all like, oh yay, now all your problems are solved. No, now you are a manager. But because I had come from the school, being a director of a school, it actually I think that's why I thought in those terms anyway, because I was always working with my staff. So I was like, of course, to do a show, I need all these people too. But there were times when it was more of a headache than I would have liked it to be. But that's just part of it. I think for me, the whole thing is everybody will come at this in so many different ways and for different needs and things. And I'm not one to say my way is better or worked all the time or anything. But I think we can all agree that the growth that we have experienced from it spiritually, creatively, as a woman, as a leader, I wouldn't trade that for anything. I feel like now I have a PhD in producing after doing it internationally. Because after I went to Edinburgh, I actually took the show to South Africa, and I was also in Sweden at the European Women's Theatre Festival there. And then that's when the hustling thing really, with the producing and the calling and all that, that's when my resourcefulness was like critical to kick in.
Great.
And so I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about collaboration, because you've done 4 shows, and now you coach people and you help them and you collaborate with them on their shows. What have you learned from collaborating with people on one-person shows?
I think the thing that continuously comes up is having doubt about the value of your story, because it is your story. So when people write, and then we meet, and then I'm like either laughing or going, oh my God, that's so amazing, and this, and they're like, really? Like, yes, it is. And I just start making connections that, maybe they didn't see, but even sometimes I'm just reflecting back what I just heard, and they're like, I said that? Like, yes, you just did. I'm just throwing back what I heard. But because we're in it, it's just like with life. I can give you the best advice in the world about a situation. I can be in the same situation and equally lost. So get whether it's getting feedback from an audience, like Frozen Mitzi said, or just from any audience, just feedback, like being reflected back where you are, that it's good, and that encouragement. I find everybody needs that because they don't see the value in the story. And I need that too. That's what I saw working with collaborators, whether I would just write everything. When it was almost finished, then I'd bring in a director and just help me get this going to bring this baby home, because I'd book theaters before I finish writing, because otherwise I wouldn't finish writing.
Exactly.
So it's just for the outside, for a point of view, and to keep me going. And even someone just to bounce, but like, no, I don't like that idea, but that brings me to this other idea. So it's not a one-person show, right? There might just be only one person performing, but it does take a village. And that's what I've learned the most, is that having someone reflect back that your story is compelling, is really important. And that's also another thing I tell people, to protect themselves when they're getting feedback, because I don't need a lot of opinions. I don't. All I need to know is, did you find the story interesting? When were you bored? What do you want to know more about? Like, just stick to the facts, because because I've been, especially at the beginning, I would be swayed by, she thinks the story should go this way, and they're like a director or whatever.
Yeah.
They could be anybody. I don't need to take the story where you want to take it. I'm trying to be true to my story. So be really protective and careful about the kind of feedback you even allow when you ask for it.
Amen. Ruthy, I really like what you were saying about feedback. I think, I would like to share with people who are considering a show is who you ask for feedback, and like what you're saying, what kind of feedback, and that can even go, I think, from a director. I had 2 directors I've had. One helped birth the show, Vivian Sorensen. She was amazing. But at the next level, I felt like I needed someone else. At the end, I don't work with either of them right now. The last director, when he started giving feedback, it got, what's the word? Maniacal. And so deceitful, evil. It was weird though, y'all. So you want to talk about demons and ghosts that come up? When I started getting standing ovations and people started seeing people selling out shows, then people are like, well, I need another contract. I need this. I need, 1% of all ticket sales. I need this and this and this. And then I was like, wait, this is a one person who's raised some money, who's paid you a very fair share to direct this and help get this up to the next level. And then I started listening to his feedback, and then you heard your audience and you saw standing ovations, and you're like, does this feedback and the audience feedback really, are they in sync, and is this real? And so I say to anybody as they're beginning to create too, who you have around you, who respects you and understands where you're trying to go with it. And feedback, right, Ruthy, how do you structure your feedback? Does this scene make sense right here? Does this character make sense to you in this kind of way versus, what do you think? Did you like it? Because that's, whoa,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience with my first show that went great, wonderful, and then when I moved it and I was going to produce it myself, it was just fear. It was just perfectionism coming up again. I wanted someone to help me, like you said, make it grow, whatever. And this person was a control freak. So I had told her, in our first meeting.
No.
Never. I know, it's strange.
Makes no sense at all.
And so I was, in our first meeting, I was like, yeah, this is a comedy, blah, blah, blah. Cut to opening night of my second run. I'm on my couch with a towel over me, watching the video of my first performance going, where's the joy? Who is that person? I didn't even recognize myself. I called my friends and said, don't come tonight. I'm not doing my show. I don't know whose show I'm doing, but don't come. And I felt like I was just walking on stage, just soulless. My soul was, but I was going through the motions. My publicist was there, and he even said it. It's like, yeah, it didn't quite seem whatever. I fired her after opening night. And the most telling thing was, she tells me, your show's not a comedy. I was like, I wish you had told me you were directing a drama, because that was the first conversation. Was like, goodbye. And I had to spend like the next, basically the whole rest of the show recapturing, finding, but it's all a life lesson and it's a metaphor, but that how you are in relationships is how you're going to be with the people you're around. It's just, you can't help but learn about yourself. I knew about how to protect myself from feedback, but even when I coach people, I'm like, you're the final say. Like, I'm going to come up with ideas all the time, and I'm going to see stuff. Does it resonate with you? Because I'm just a midwife. I don't make your baby on the way out. It's been made. I just help you. And for me, it's like to give you courage, like to keep pushing you to go further and further, because that's the scariest thing. We're revealing ourselves, and it's painful, and it's awkward, and we want to hide, because my first director was like, Ruth, you can't do a one-person show and hide. If you want to hide, do a 10-person show. But I was physically, even in his direction, like kind of hiding. And it's normal. It's natural. But you just need to, whatever, just like you said, be around people who encourage you, who want you to express your voice, your story. And it takes a lot. You have to learn how to say no and go, thank you, I'll consider it.
Right.
And fire people, let people go, even if they're friends.
Yes.
It's just like, I love you, but in this arena it's not working because I'm having a baby here.
And that's another thing that when you are, oh my God, I just had a flashback. I had wanted to put my show on tape. This is a few years ago. And I had rented the room. I had hired somebody to be the producer because I wanted to just focus on my performance and not worry about everything happening. I had saved up all this money so I could shoot. This was before everything was so easy with your phone and you could just shoot with your camera and life was good. I paid $5,000 to have people come to shoot 2 shows, just 2 shows. Yeah. So I had saved up all this money from going into those prisons. Can I tell you? And so I had gotten a producer. We had a camera person and a sound person that she brought in. I let her take care of everything. Well, I knew I was in trouble when the director said to me, right before we were getting ready to go into the theater, the director said to me, I'm not going to touch it. You'll be fine. I was like, yeah, but we were in my living room. Now we're going to be in a theater. I need you to reblock it. And she said, oh, you'll be fine. So I panicked. And I called a director. I said, I need you tomorrow. I need you to block my show. Wow. Come tomorrow, look at it, block it. I got to shoot. I said, I paid all this money. I need to get it done. So we get to the theater. The director who told me I would be fine shows up. So now I said, well, I brought somebody in because you said it was going to be fine, and I don't feel good with that. So he's trying to give the crew direction on what to do, and the crew rebels.
Oh,
it was mutiny. My camera person put the camera on automatic when we had 2 audience come so we could cut and stuff. He put the camera on automatic so it would get fuzzy, it wasn't focused. And then I had a friend from church come. He had his little camera sitting there. He took better pictures just sitting, never seeing the show.
Right.
His photography was so much better than what they did. They broke a piece of equipment during the whole thing, and then they wanted me to pay for it. So I told the producer, I said, this is on you. You hired this group of incompetent people. I'm not paying for that. I had nothing to do with how they set up and took it down, and as it is now, I have no show. I have nothing to show for it. I was able to salvage just enough to make like a little demo tape, but I couldn't really show it. And so what I learned out of that, because you talk about having a team and having a group, that you have to be on top of it, and you have to know that whoever you hire to be your producer, that they have a track record with solo shows, not film, not TV, but solo shows, that they know, because I kept saying I wanted to have a life. I want it not to just be stagnant where you just have a wide shot of me. I want, let's walk it through. We're going to walk it through a couple of times so you can record it and know, okay, this is where we need to give her a close-up. I said, I want that kind of discussion. I want it. They were like, oh, we know what we're doing. It'll be fine. And what I learned from that is, if they don't take your information and they don't help you get your vision, they all must be fired. Because at the end of the day, anybody who does not do what the director says has no business being on the crew. The director runs the show. And as an artist, you need to know that your director has your back. That your director is making sure that everything is taken care of. They're telling the producer is making sure that the overall stuff is done, but the director is the one who is making sure you look good on set or on stage, that whoever your team is, that they know what they're doing. And if the director says, I want blue, you give them blue, because they're the ones who, you hopefully as a solo performer, you have had many sessions with this director, and you trust that director. Because if you don't trust that director, they got to go too. But when production is going, the director has the final say. And everybody has to accommodate the director. It's not about, I want to have my camera here. No, it's not your show. It is the director. The director guides it. I want the sound here. No, it is the director. And I learned that. From having that was a very expensive lesson, but I learned that no. The director runs the show.
Yeah.
And that if you have a director who abdicates at the last minute, when I kept telling this person, hey, this is what I want. We walk through, I want to clean up my characters. I want to do this, and then we're going into a theater. She didn't even want to go into the theater to look at the space. She's like, you're fine. And at that point, I was like, oh no, that's
especially
not
for
gonna
the
work
price
for
you were
me.
paying.
That's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
So you encounter all these things, and I think as a solo artist, you have to find your strength and your courage to keep it going, because you had a challenge in that you had a team who came to help you at some point when you were doing your show, and they would never discuss money, if I remember correctly. They weren't really telling you what they wanted, but they were like, "Oh, we'll help you," and then they had you over a barrel, in that they started making all these demands, and right in the middle of your show. And it was unfair, and it was horrific. It was horrific. And I was just listening to what was going on. I was like, they got to go.
Yeah. Change of agreement over time. People may work with you and then want, like as she had mentioned, want more of a piece of your project that you had completed before they even stepped on the table. People who have a vision for your project and where they want to take it, and it's hard to even speak about, because it's intense.
That's different from your vision.
That's different from your vision, and not spoken about. So you have no idea that other people may have their own
agenda.
It's such a harsh word.
No, but it's true.
But yeah, on your project. There's a difference between. You have to be really clear on things. You're getting uncomfortable to see. I see you scratching.
Am I?
Yes. No, but I guess it's important to identify titles and terms
before you
because
start.
there's a difference between a hired gun on something and the exchange of that, and versus a different understanding where they're partaking in percentages of where this thing is going.
Yeah.
And
that has to be clear.
yes, and Lydia's always said you do that from the get-go.
Yeah,
and if you don't, it can get
ugly.
It can get real ugly, and yeah, it can be horrific.
And lawyers involved and everything.
Oh yeah.
Now that you've all done one person shows and have that under your belt, what's the next step? What is the next thing for you as an artist? Do you see taking a show and doing something else with it, or are you done and go, I don't want to do any more one person shows, I'm going to go and be an actor and a comic and just live life? You're up, Mitzi. What is your next
Well,
thing.
so many people had said to me even after the show was born, like, "What's your next show?" And I'm like, "What?" I'm still doing the same show, and I'm in awe of women who keep creating them. I don't really feel like I'm ready to birth something new as a one-person show. I love doing the keynote performance, taking scenes and talking about the social, political, emotional issues that I raise. So that's amazing to me to have that performance piece of it. But for me, my next, and it was always sort of happening at the same time too, I want to expand the story to feature film. I wrote the first draft of the screenplay, and so that it's not so my story is about the daughter's search to find her father missing since the Vietnam War. So now the story expands beyond the daughter. It's not just about the father, telling the whole story. So my goal is to do feature film, and as long as thankfully and sadly, this story is still so relevant that I'll do it as long as people feel like they need to hear it.
Yeah.
So
Great.
that's me.
That's great.
All right, Ruthy.
For me, let's see. I would like to do my most popular show again, just because I love it. It's about fear. But one of the things that was sort of next for me, because I wanted to do another one-person show, and I approached them the way you do. It's like, well, what have I just gone through that I have, gems to offer the world with? I want to revisit another show that I did, Oops, I Killed My Mother, where, my evolution with my relationship with her that show was always very painful to do, but I also was unsatisfied with sort of the ending and where it went, and now I feel like I have more to round it out. And then when I was like, yeah, let me do a fifth show, that's why I moved on to YouTube. So it's because it's just another way to tell a story, which is awesome. So that's I'm just going to continue with YouTube and maybe film some of my stuff. But
YouTube is Cooking Up Adventures,
but I also have the Self-Help Crack House, which is about my addiction to self-help books. So that is a story that needs to still be told. But you can't do it all alone because there's editing. It's a lot. It's a lot more.
Well, you too are a one-woman band.
Yes, and it's limiting though. So I definitely have to start getting help.
But I will say, like Sandy and like Cynthia, you're an extraordinary filmmaker. In that,
thank you.
You really, because you edit, because you shoot it yourself, with yourself in it, you really have a great sense of what you are doing. And as the audience, you really take us on a journey. Which is amazing.
Well, what was wonderful to learn, I did not know, is that editing is writing. I had editing is like dancing and writing. I had no idea. And so it's really enjoyable. So wherever my skills lead me with that, I hope that just continues to evolve. But I do want to revisit. And I need to talk with you ladies about taking them abroad, because that's another big goal of mine.
I am, everything that has occurred with my show is the volume 1. Since there's 14 women, I've done 8 in the first show. And so I have the volume 2 to launch. I've been asked often to film it. For either cable or DVD, and I always hesitated because I'm like, well, then I want them to come see it live. But I'm also have so many things that I want to do that by holding it like that, I can't follow as she does the vision of, I got these other things I want to get on. I feel like I've created a holding pattern for myself where I'm like idling, and other things have launched around it. So I need to launch part 2 and shoot it and sell it. I have set up a book behind it too. It's the lessons that we've learned from each of these women, and they're from what they've done. It's kind of like a chicken soup for the soul for that, and also how she did. Oh yes, she did. So there's different aspects of it that can work, and so I'm accepting. And seeing others that are just launching their things and shooting it, like why am I? That's my thing. I've been holding it like this because I'm like I want a certain situation a certain way, and control issues. So I'm releasing that so that I can move forward with everything else that's in my queue, because it's a lot that I want to do, and if I just do that, then I can push out some other babies.
That's right. Just start doing it, and then it just starts to happen, and it happens your way because you're in charge still. So it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. For me, so I wrote a screenplay back in 2005, and it's called Unprepared for Life, and it's an almost true story except for the good parts; those had to be made up. That's the entire.
I love it.
That's the entire
Title.
title. But so I literally finished it, wrote it in 2005, and finished it in like 2006, early 2007. With $1,000 a friend of mine gave me, a producer guy, and said, you should write this, and I'll give you some money to get started. He was very nice, and we did finish it, and it was great, and it was actually in the breakdowns, but then I pulled it back because it was my life and it's my story, and it felt like it turned out that I needed to be on top of it as opposed to underneath it, and there was so much more to tell. So after all these years of trying to work on it, trying to edit it, and all this kind of stuff, like make it better, which is virtually impossible because I already loved the first thing, that it was written. And my friend Peter said to me, Cynthia, your film is this TV series, because my life is so filled with so many stories, as all of ours are, and I am sort of prolific in that way of telling my stories and speaking about it, that so now I've got a friend of mine helping me who's a writer, and I write my shit, but that's pretty much. So anyway, so I've written the pilot. I've done 2 readings of it, and it's and now I'm rewriting the pilot again. But for the first time in my life, I'm more settled in who I am, and also on top of it, meaning that I'm not protecting anybody anymore. I'm telling my story without apology, but with humor, love, even so, I mean, enough love, not crazy love, but anyway, but I'm doing it my way, and I'm very, very happy with it, and it's like the whole story. I'm not trying to do it somebody else's way or this. It's like really is my way. So I'm excited about it, and it's happening, and so that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to sell the pilot shortly, and Unprepared for Life, and of course it'll be named something else, and Sandy will be playing me, and that kind of stuff.
Again.
Anyway, and her mother will be in it as well as my mother
In the bathroom.
That's right.
But yeah, that's what I'm doing. And in terms of my next solo show, I'm actually focusing on my stand-up now, to do an hour, which I've never done an hour. And so it's like, I mean, I've done hours and hours, but I need to do an hour, taped hour, that looks good. And so that's what I'm after. Those are my 2 priorities at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One last question, because it's come up a few times. Perfectionism. Being a perfectionist, how has that gotten you in trouble, and what have you learned that allows you to move a little bit more? Maybe not a lot, but just a little bit more. Ruthy.
Well, perfectionism, right, leads to paralysis. So, and perfectionism, it's not just about, this has to be perfect. It comes out in all sorts of ways, whether it's to protect myself or I don't like that. It's hiding it, and it's a shapeshifter. But tiny baby steps and letting go of the results, like really celebrating the fact that I took a tiny step. It's not easy to do, because it's like, that's nothing, I can do so much more. And it's like, yeah, really, Superwoman, so why aren't you doing jack for like the past year on whatever it is I've been a perfectionist about. So tiny steps, celebrate, and celebrate myself for taking the action, not the result of it.
That's right. That's great.
Mitzi, do you have
For
anything
me,
to contribute?
This might bring it down a little bit, but sorry, but I almost died 3 years ago. And so when I realized I wasn't going to die and I was going to get my health back slowly but surely, I mean, I was really laying in my bed going, God, if I can get back up to do any part of this, tell any part of this story, be influential in any kind of positive way, I'm going to get my butt back up and do it. And, for me now, like when I perform, maybe my body is not physically at top notch that it was when the show was born or when I did it at Greenway 4 years ago. But I had to let perfectionism, just glad to be up and have that opportunity. And for me now also, knowing how the story hits people, how much it means to others, because it's not just my story in the story. So I have to go, hey, I'm gonna let people have it, and I'm not perfectly svelte, and my character's voice is not absolutely on point like it used to be, maybe. But I'm still gonna get up and do it and give it to God, do everything I can to be present. So that changed it all for me on the perfectionism pieces as a performing artist. Now we got some work to do as a screenwriter, but so.
Yeah.
And for you, Sandy?
Perfectionism for me is ruminating and getting stuck and idle, and the paralysis. It's real and it's heavy, and it's cost me dearly in the process of my projects, and so I have to actively work on it's this having an endpoint, and it's ready, and we're going, because I can still and is it okay, and it's when I see other people with the freedom of just trusting that something that I'm like, your guys are okay with, okay, then, it's like wait a second, I'm just putting too much like this as opposed to just letting it flow. And when you do that, it's freeing. It's freeing, and it's a process for me. It's not something that flows easily. I still battle is it ready? It has to be like this. The details. Yeah. It served me well in certain aspects of it.
Right.
Were essential, and I'm rewarded for it. But I have to be careful of where it's appropriate and when it slows the process down.
And I just for me, it hasn't been about perfectionism. It has been about protection. In that I would bring the show out, I would start to do it, I would work on it, and then someone would say something that would deflate my balloon, and then I would put my stuff back away. It's like, I'm going back away. And what I realized, and this, we're talking 20 years, 23 years that I actually would take it out, do it, and then put it back away. Take it out, do it, put it back away. And what I realized this past year for me was that working on a film project, I was jacked on that film project. I had my confidence taken. I had my my ability to feel good about myself taken within that project, because I was working with people who were broken, and every day there was an assault on my psyche, an assault on my craft, an assault on my character. And a few months ago, and the last couple of years, I was praying, Lord, restore to me everything that was stolen. Restore to me everything that was stolen. And I have been diligent about getting back what was stolen from me. Like, I was like, why haven't I moved forward in, I'm smart, I got all these things. What is keeping this flow? I've worked hard. I've tilled that soil. I've labored. I've given birth to other people's babies. What's happening with my baby? And I was able to have a moment where I was able to. There was a reunion of sorts that I took Ruthy to with me, and Lexi, and so I was conscious to go, I'm going back in there and taking what was stolen from me. I am taking everything that was stolen. And I will tell you that when I walked in there, I was so equipped. I felt like I had 13 sheriffs, the big LA sheriffs backing me up. I was like, I'm coming in, I'm taking my stuff. Nobody's going to take it from me. And I went into this screening and just took back my power, took back my confidence, took back my sense of I'm a good artist. I'm really good at what I do. And what I realized was that I would take this show and put it back away because I had been assaulted. It was a psychic assault.
Yeah.
You know, it was there was some sexual stuff, but they assaulted me psychically because they didn't feel good about themselves.
Sure.
So to see somebody else going for what they wanted, it was like, wait a minute, this is mine. Don't get in there. Yeah, they were threatened, and I didn't even have any idea of it because I'm thinking, hey, we're gonna play. We're in this together. Isn't this fun? And that's not what it was. And so that with the show, I became very protective. That I would put it up, and if I felt somebody getting ready to violate, I took that baby and put it back away. And when I went to that reunion, I said, never again will I allow anybody to diminish my art or diminish me regarding my art. And I went in there, and when I came out of there, I told Ruthy, woo, I feel live. I feel like I took it, and there's nothing they can do about it. I took my stuff. I was going in there going, that's mine. And I just sat down. I cannot explain how I felt reclaiming my power. And I called Sandy, let me tell you what happened. And I told Mitzi, let me tell you what happened. And you really were instrumental in me having a shift, because you said to me your expectation was high for something else. But that conversation was healing. I started looking at where did I have high expectation, and it was with that project. I had the expectation that I was going to go in there and do a great job. I was going to play with great people. It was going to be great, and this was the project that was going to catapult me into stardom. People would finally know who I was, and my work would show for itself, and I was so excited. And from day one, it was like chop, chop, chop down, chop down, chop down, chop down. And so what I realized, I had an expectation, and I did not, I didn't get, first of all, that I was in a group of artists who were damaged goods. And so I took it personal. It was very personal for me, because I look at it like, I'm bringing my best. Where's your best? I got my best. Where's your best? And so to be able to go in there and say, you know what? I know you took my stuff, and now I'm taking it back. Thank you. And I went in there and thank you. And I cannot tell you, I felt like this person that had been stolen away was finally released from a prison. You know, like I have been taken kidnapped, and now I finally got the police to come and get me. It's like, let's go. And so I think when you're creating stuff, that you need the security to do your art. You know, that maybe some of that perfectionism is that you don't feel safe. You don't feel secure. You don't feel you don't feel like it's going to be okay. So it shows up in different ways. And what I realized was that I didn't give my baby a full birth because I felt threatened. So it wasn't so much perfectionism, but I felt threatened. So I was like, not time yet. And bad critiques, taking bad critiques, and then going, I knew that's not right, so I'm going to put it away now, because that's not right. Whatever you said ain't right. So
Yeah.
that is the thing.
So we're talking about
Perfectionism.
You know, I was making jokes like I'm not perfectionist, but I think our ego is what makes us the perfectionist. You know, and I think all of us hold ourselves to like an ideal, right? We have an ideal, which is a should. I should be here. I should be here by now. I should be great. This should happen, and this it should. And should is bullshit because it doesn't exist, because it's the future, and the future doesn't exist yet. So there you are, not present, you know. And so that anytime you're shoulding yourself, which, you know, I did a whole show about shoulding, and my, you know, and you hold yourself to an ideal, you're not accepting what is. And you need to start accepting what is, and what is right now, right? Because what is actually good enough. What is actually the truth right now. So when you start to accept what is, which is this is where I'm at right now, you can grow from there. You can grow from right now. You can't grow from an ideal or an idea of future that doesn't exist. And it should, and it's based on some shit you believed you got from a long time ago when you were this big. So when you acknowledge that's where that came from a long time ago, you can start loving yourself today from right now and accepting where you're at right now. And that is you in reality, not in blah blah land, you know. And so if you accept what is, you're loving yourself from where you are right now. You will not be in perfectionism. You will not give yourself a hard time. You know, you will not be like, you will be able to grow from this space onward. And so, and all we are here for, every single one of us, is to grow. Period. It's to grow and to learn every day of our lives. Nobody's done, my friend. Nobody's done. We're not done yet. You're never going to be done. On your deathbed, you're going to go, you know what? I got something I got to tell you. You know what I mean? It's the truth. We're never going to be done. And so stop getting in the result, because the result that also doesn't exist. So that's not you being here now and loving and accepting what is. And so I think that's a really important thing. And when I had a big epiphany about that and an awareness about that, I mean, if I was late, 10 minutes late, I'd start laughing at myself. I'd be like, yeah, you're late. You get late sometimes. And that's not totally true, but like, it's an example. You know, you're late. So you laugh about it. And it turns out it comes from a really authentic place, an honest place. Because maybe, you know, whatever, for something about you from when you were a kid or whatever, oh, that's right, and then all of a sudden it becomes you can be easy with yourself. You can laugh at it. You can move forward. And then you can and then the next thing you know, you're not late anymore because you've accepted what is. When you don't accept what it is, whatever you resist persists. That's how life goes. So whatever somebody you don't want to see in the world, you're going to see them on Thursday, okay? You'll see them on Thursday night, trust me. You know what I mean? So accept what is, you know, and stop, you know, and so get out of that whole mentality. And so that's what I say, and I think that's a huge lesson for me and any one of us who want to keep doing that.
Actually, I love all the points that you just brought up, because that serves, if we walk in that really serves actors to be present, to love yourself, and to get out of the shoulds, and to not be putting all your attention into the future. This is what it is now. If you walk in those 4 pillars, how amazing of an artist do you become?
That's right.
Because you're so present. That's you're right. So tuned in.
You're listening.
And your expectations are not jacking you up.
That's right. That's right. And then because your expectations jacking you up, you judge everybody else in your life. Right? That's what you do.
That's right.
You judge everybody else. So if you're judging yourself
right.
and you're shoulding yourself, you are shoulding everybody else in your life.
That's right.
You know, and so then these people, they're not enough for you. You're not enough for me. 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 Because you are, because you're not accepting what is for you. If you're in the future, then these people are like, what are you doing here? What are you guys? Do you know what I mean? You're not good enough. If you're not good enough, then they're not good enough. And that's no way to live. And people don't want to be around that. It doesn't feel good.
Right.
But if you accept you, I'm going to accept you and you and you and you and you and you for wherever you are right now.
And also minding your business. I did a fast to mind my business. Not anybody else's, but mind my business. And Ruthy, I get so much so much wisdom from friends. But Ruthy, when I first started, I said, Ruthy, I'm starting this fast. She said, oh, really? On what? I said, I'm minding my business. She said, really? So then I talked to her a couple of days later, and we were talking about somebody, and I said, yeah, and I said, and I told him, I said, did they ask you for your advice? I said, no, they did not. And that shut me down in a good way to go, wait a minute, you started this fast because you need a breakthrough here. Mind your business. Stay on the path and mind your business. And I will tell you that has shifted me. I'm not running to jump in and be somebody's firefighter or their ambulance, their EMT person. That I hear stuff, I go, oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
The impetus to go run, do something, and hey, let me help you is gone. But it took me
That's the protector.
50 some years
That's the protector
to
though.
get there.
Yep.
You know, it's like you're uncovering all these things as an artist, you know, because I think we probably do more therapy on ourselves than people have 9 to 5s. Because we have to tap into art, we have to tap into that emotion, we have to tap into that feeling, we have to create stuff. So if you're blocked, you can't create.
That's right.
But the last thing I want to say about this is that being creator, especially as a solo performer, right? You're up there by yourself, right? And first you're by yourself on the page, and it's frightening. So even though, I mean, I've written 4 shows, and I'm amazed that each time I write, it's like I've never written another one. All of those feelings come up again. So just because you do get a handle on being present or doing whatever mantra you need to do, doesn't mean solved, I can do this again. Because especially if you're growing and you're taking with each show or each project going deeper and further, it's going to come up again. So just have a set of tools that you can revisit, whether it's being present or praying or crying. Or, you know, sometimes you just have to, that's just part of the creative process. It can be painful and you're back to, you know, being with your perfectionism again. It just happens. Just like with a couple, you know, you're married or whatever, you're together. It doesn't mean, oh, we resolved that fight. That was wonderful, that you're never going to fight again. It's just part of growing.
Yeah.
Every time you, new level, new devil. It's just going to happen.
And hopefully you have better tools every time you get.
You just get better at them.
And you take the action. You don't let them win. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing, is that you don't let them keep you from doing what you want to do in the world.
No, the scariest and best metaphor has been like, when we're getting stronger, the devil's doing push-ups. Like, oh, I got you. The faster, the smarter you get, so does the devil.
The devil is the ego. It's your ego. That's
whatever, it meets you right where you are.
Exactly.
So don't expect it to go if it's there that you're doing anything wrong.
Right,
it's just going to show up.
Right, it's process.
Because it doesn't like to grow and it doesn't like change. The ego likes everything the same. And so as soon as you start doing something that's unfamiliar, something that's new, something that's challenging, your ego's going to jump up and it's going to be the loudest voice you've ever heard in your life. And it's a growl, and it's mean, and it's condescending, and then that's when you got to go, oh, you know what's good about this? That means I'm stepping out of what's familiar and what's comfortable, and I'm doing something different and challenging. And that is a gift. And when you realize that, you can tell the ego to take a nap on its cot in the back, which is where mine goes. Carl, he's got to take a nap in the back on a cot. He's got his own cot. You know
That's
what I mean?
awesome.
Yeah.
The best book on that is The War of Art.
Yeah, The War of Art is great.
Stephen
Pressfield.
Well, that was a big changer for me too. The way that voice in the head, and I really enjoyed that. I think I read that about 2 years ago. It was so helpful.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, ladies, I just want to say thank you so much for being part of this. I know that this is going to help a lot of artists out there who probably are in or have been feeling distraught about doing their work. You know, not feeling confident, and hopefully this is something something one of you have said will kind of illuminate their path to say, oh, wait a minute, I heard Cynthia say this, I heard Sandy say this, I heard Ruthy say this, I heard Mitzi say this, and it will propel them forward. So I just want to say thank you. I'm so happy I know you, and I thank you that I get to do life with you guys.
Thank you.
You're
You're awesome.
Thank you.